Might have missed it last week, but the New South Wales government has announced it's launching a pattern book selling architect-designed homes for $1. Trying to answer what the hell that actually means for the Australian housing market in this video. We're going to do it by looking at 4 key concepts. Number 1, what is a pattern book? Number 2, who is it meant for? Number 3, how does it help affordability? And then number 4, maybe the most important, is this going to be good design? Spoiler alert, hell yeah, it is good design. But at the start, question number 1, what the hell is a pattern book? Basically, it's a series of pre-designed homes that local councils have agreed to streamline approvals for. So what would normally take 100 plus days can now take 10 plus days to get it through council because it's already been pre-designed according to local regulation. Question number 2, who is it meant for? Now, when I first saw this get announced on social media, I saw a lot of people in the comments being like, how does this help anyone? We can't afford land anyway. It's actually not aimed at homeowners. It's not aimed at you and me. It's aimed at small to mid-scale developers or anyone building mass housing. And the hope is that they take on these designs and they roll out these housing en masse as a way of standardizing really good design across our suburbs. Number 3, how does it help with affordability? Well, the idea is that if it takes less time in council, less time equals less money. And the fact that we're dealing with small-scale developers and builders that are doing this en masse, in theory, is that they can operate on an economy of scale. They can buy the same sort of materials and roll it out across multiple housing. And that's going to be cheaper, and it should be passed on to the consumer in the end. Now, I've got to introduce you to the concept of the missing middle here to understand why we have a pattern book like this in the first place. In Australia, most of us grew up in a single detached dwelling. That's just a fancy word for saying a freestanding house. That model is no longer affordable for a lot of people, and we need to densify in order to build more houses for everyone. Often people think that means a big ass residential building over here, like a really tall apartment tower. And sometimes that does make a lot of sense, particularly if you're living in a city. But there's this whole thing called the missing middle, which is low scale but higher density dwelling that we just haven't been building in Australia. This pattern book is addressing this need. 1 to 4 homes and what used to fit one house. So it's more housing, it's still sort of low scale, and it's still keeping that suburban fabric that Australians know and love intact. But to understand even deeper why we need this, we've got to understand the problems associated with a single dwelling. I don't know if the general public knows this, but in Australia, you don't need an architect to build a building. And as a result, 97% of new homes built each year have nothing to do with an architect. They're generally a project home. Project homes are these sorts of homes that you can see in these images here. 9 times out of 10, they're done by a building designer. An architect was never involved, and they're replicated across multiple sites. They are definitely an affordable solution for housing, but they are almost always built as a single dwelling. And in this market, where 97% of homes have nothing to do with architects, we've ended up with some really major issues in our housing model. The first one being, Australia has the biggest homes in the world. They're now too big for the amount of land we have left to house everyone, so we need smaller homes. The other fact we really have to deal with is that our homes are really badly built. You don't have to Google much to work out that Australia has some of the worst insulated homes. And considering we have a relatively neutral climate compared to places like Europe, most homes in Australia need to be heated or cooled year round. And if you had better design, you wouldn't need to do that. Now, the third thing we've sort of already lightly touched on is the need for our suburbs and cities to densify. And a good way to think about density is like, if there's more people in one spot, there's better justification for building public infrastructure, like public transport routes, bike paths, footpaths, landscaping, really active street frontages. The more people that can support the cost of a local government to build all those things, the better you're going to get as an outcome. And it makes sense. You can imagine council trying to spread itself so thin over a low density model because we're so spread out because we keep building these things, which in our shrinking family sizes is probably only housing like 1 to 2 people these days. Now, if you are used to this model of freestanding housing, like this one here at the top of this photo, it's probably kind of challenging to hear that this model is broken for what we need now in the future. And sometimes that can feel kind of scary. To be a designer and to be able to think about the future, you've got to be quite radically optimistic. You've also got to be really open-minded. The chances of a model that helped house a generation 50 years ago being the solution to today's problems are pretty low. And change is okay, but that means it's a really good time to be open-minded and learn from the experts when something like a pattern book comes out. So back to the question that we were going to try and answer at the start of this video. What makes these homes good design? First off, we kind of have to answer the question, good for who? When I was going through architecture school, the definition of good design that I got taught was good design does the most good for the most people. And that applies to all building typologies. For example, your home. Is it offering anything back to the community aside from giving you a roof over your head? Do you have an opportunity to meet neighbours at your front gate, or do you have a 1.2 metre solid fence built to boundary? Do you have a garden that can support native wildlife and plants, or have you got a concrete backyard and 2 olive trees? This principle of designing everything as part of a bigger whole and always being able to give back is what I got taught is good design. And for those reasons, project homes rarely hit that mark. Aside from the 3 reasons we already discussed, which is 1, we can't keep building single dwelling houses, and 2, the state of our housing industry, which I want to remind you, only 3% was done by architects, has been built really badly in terms of insulation and is therefore an incredible energy suck on our country. And number 3, we need to densify. So for all of those reasons combined, this is a wonderful example of good, dense, sustainable design. We're already at 8 minutes, according to my timer. I was hoping to step you through one of these house designs and talk through a couple more examples of good design doing good. But for now, let's just have a look at these 2. I wanted to point out something that they both have in common. Number 1, you don't see any front fence. And if you go onto the government website, you can actually read up about how this one in particular uses a shared entryway to try and build community and build neighbourly interaction without relying on a big fence to shut everyone out. Number 2, lots of landscaping. And they actually have an accompanied landscaping plan that encourages the use of native plants. Number 3, which is something you never see on project homes, is proper shading for the windows. And this is a really big one for making sure our homes respond to climate appropriately and we have a more efficient suburbia. So there you go. That is the New South Wales Pattern Book. I hope that gave you a taste of what it does, what it's for, and why it's an example of really great design.